Okay, thank you, Brian, for a very interesting talk on DeFi on Starknet. Next up, we have Kunho, also known as KK, the wizard of topology.
Hello. Is everyone from Vietnam? Did anyone fly all the way here for fun? Where did you fly from? Oh, Singapore. Anywhere else exciting? Oh, Japan. We're in Japan. Tokyo. Oh, great. Oh, India. Woo. Hong Kong. Yeah, we have quite an interesting crowd. Yeah. Oh, from Hanoi. How long is the flight from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City? A few hours. That's good. Thank you, everyone, for coming here. It's a lovely afternoon. I know that it's a pretty interesting crowd that we have over here, and I think we're glad to meet everyone. We're excited about Starknet and also lots of different interesting things that are happening on the field. I know that ZK Land just talked about probably a more exciting topic called DeFi. But what we are working on is quite esoteric and quite obscure in itself. But please allow me to explain a little bit about what we are working on and why we're working on what we are working on. So we're from Topology. Topology is working primarily on Starknet. We're one of the very few groups that pioneered putting physics on-chain, two-body simulations, machine learning inference only on-chain. The reason why we did these kind of experiments is because we wanted to, I think the mission that we had is we wanted to test the frontiers of blockchain. What we mean by that is that blockchain, as we all know over here, the smart contract, it's a world computer. Ethereum is a world computer. But this computer is failing. But we have a world computer for the first time in our humanity. So everyone over here has their computing device. It's a single-player computing device, right? Your cell phone or your computer. You don't share the device with someone else. But for the first time in our humanity, we figured out a multiplayer computing platform called Ethereum or blockchain or other layer ones that you want to call about. And we're thinking about what can be possible on this new frontier. And we're doing lots of experiments. So let me explain a little bit about what an on-chain reality is. Gildy Gyoja, who's one of my co-founder, I think pioneered in this field in a way that we can just read verbatim. These are the realities with laws and constraints enforced on the blockchain, or equivalently with the laws and constraints applied to the mechanics of those realities and verified on blockchain with zero-knowledge proof or validity proof. It's a very long-winded, complicated explanation of what these realities are, but let me break it down a little bit. So we're all living in this world called Earth, or whatever that you want to call about. We're living in this universe, and we're all governed by the same laws of physics around the entire globe. But the essence of this laws of physics is that nobody owns these laws of physics. Nobody controls it. It's verifiable. People can look at it and test it. You can drop a pen in Ho Chi Minh City. You can drop a pen in Seoul, South Korea, in New York, and you can derive the same equations and same phenomena that happen around the world. That's why your piece of clothes works the same way in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, even if you port from one world to another world, because we're governed by the same rules. And we think that that's a very interesting component that is needed on on-chain reality because a lot of realities that we see virtually right now is siloed because the worlds are not connected because the mechanics behind it or the laws behind these worlds are actually owned by someone or some entity. And there's no transparent and neutral rules out there that can be applied to these worlds, and these worlds can, without any intervention, can automatically be connected. So we're envisioning a virtual or purely, I think, electronically connected world that is similar to this universe that we're living in a way that we need certain rule sets, certain mechanics that needs to be on blockchain that is immutable, transparent, and neutral, that no certain entity owns it. And I think this kind of endeavor has not been done, and we're very excited to work on this. And I think it's alongside with the emergence of this notion of the world computer, this computing paradigm that we've never really seen before, because we've always been enjoying a single player a computer, which we really didn't really need this reality that needs to be shared with everyone. Because in your own single player computer or device, the reality doesn't really need to be shared with people in a permissionless way. Imagine living in this world where you're the only player. Then it doesn't really matter what rule I'm living in because I don't need to interact with you because I'm the only player of this world. But it's like this world, you and I and everyone over here is an entity that has its autonomy. And once we combine or interact or connect in this world, we can't really be living in a world where someone owns this kind of rule sets. So that's where we think that's one of the most interesting things that can actually happen on chain. So we are seeing a lot of interesting experiments that are happening called autonomous worlds or fully on-chain games. And I think one thing that we need to reiterate a lot is that the notion of games, I think it's better understood as more like a simulations or realities or worlds, because if you go back to the beginning ages of or emergence of games, is that it could be like a tic-tac-toe. You can go to the wall and write something, and then we can create some kind of rule set on top of it, and you and I reside in that little world that you make. And one thing interesting that happens is that whenever the medium on which the world is hosted changes, our definition of games have been changing. So, for example, we can go simply from a board game to a computerized, I don't know, arcade games, then go to your PC. Then we go to a mobile game. And as you can see, the types of games that can be simulated on top of this machine has always changed. When they change, the understanding or our current understanding of the game or the worlds have changed. And I think that's probably going to happen quite drastically. Our understanding of games or worlds will change upside down because we're now going from single-player computer that can host realities to, for the first time in our humanity, to the multiplayer computing platform and host realities over there. And I think that will probably change our understanding of games and also understanding of what can be done and what will be done on these games. And that's probably why we don't really want to use the word games, because it has a lot of connotations that, like if you play game, the notion of just playing the game in itself has the play part. You don't say, I play living in this world. Of course, if you really want to enjoy this world, and everyone will over here will empathize, is that if you truly love what you're doing, it's like a play. But if you, people, I think, tend to have this understanding that when you play, you're just doing it for fun and you're wasting your time. But I think that kind of understanding will probably change when things are actually going on chain. And what I mean by that is that we'll explain a little further down the presentation. But just like worlds, let's say we're living in this universe of Earth, or whatever you want to call it. And there are a bunch of different worlds within this universe or reality. So there's Anglo-Saxon worlds, or there's like what do you call it? Russo world, there could be Latin American world, or you can also specify the world in itself. There's a world in Vietnam, or there's a world in Korea, there's a world in the United States. That's how we actually think about these autonomous worlds, is that the reason why it's autonomous is that let's give an example for Vietnam. So, even in Vietnam, we have certain rules within this country. It's run autonomously, and the world in itself is dictated by participants of these worlds. And because the participants can actually participate, because we're now having this device that's multiplayer, that kind of activities is now possible. But to what extent these kind of activities can be facilitated, that's far down the line. Whether there was activities or interactions can be, I guess, frictionless. Think of it as like we just figured out how to invent a piece of paper, and we're trying to create a constitutional government with a bunch of different documents and a bunch of different ways to verify and to anoint someone or to appoint someone to certain positions. That kind of activities can be envisioned, but in terms of when it actually can be actualized, that will probably take a long time. So I think autonomous worlds, I think, is pioneered by Xerox PARC, Ludens. We can all read it over here, but we can live in this world. But just like, the world of Narnia or Christianity and Commonwealth law, this kind of world is something that can be created entirely in our minds. So the most important part is our minds, because everyone over here is a participant, and just like going back to the notion of the world computer, the most important part is that the individuality and then the control of the individual and being able to participate in this world computer, a multiplayer computer or computing device. That is something that's going to be crucially different, and a reason why we need this kind of different kind of layers and understanding of the games when we go to this new machine that can simulate the world. So there are a lot of experimentations happening. OP, optimism space, is pioneered by Xerox PARC or Lattice's MUD. So these are game or worlds that are purely on-chain. So every interactions goes through transactions and verified. And the reason why it's so crucial is that once this kind of ECS model, where things are the most bottom layers are shared, then you can reach permissionless interoperability and also being able to connect these worlds in a way that we couldn't have done before. I think the only similar worlds that we've actually seen is kind of like Super Smash Bros., where one company brings a whole different bunch of IPs into it, and to combine those worlds, it's just as if like we're trying to create this room, and we somehow needs to get permission from the owners of everyone here, and we need to think about the incentive for the owners of ourselves, or we could say our parents or whatever. And imagine bringing 30 people into this group, and we need to talk to at least 60 people to coordinate everything to bring everyone over here. That is near impossible coordinations that needs to happen. But once we actually put things in a multiplayer computer, we no longer have to get a permission from anyone, because as anyone over here came to this conference, if you want to come and if you have the autonomy, you can just come. I think that kind of vision is behind MUD, or this fully on-chain engine that people want to call it. And similar, I think, experiments is happening on Starknet ecosystem. It's called Dojo. So Realms or Dope War is building things on top of Dojo. So it's a very exciting experiments that are happening. So please follow Dojo if you guys are interested in about building fully on-chain worlds. So going back to the reality part, why do we really think that this is a definite future that we see on this world computer when the computing paradigm changes? So just like we all agreed before, we all agreed that Ethereum is a world computer. And once we have this singular computer that is shared by multiple people around the world, then what we can actually think about is that, then we can actually create a reality on top of this computer that can simulate, and everyone can participate in this world. And in this reality, just like in this world, there are going to be a bunch of different worlds created on top of these realities. And that's kind of like the North Star that we're using in topology to think about what we need to actually build in order to get to this grand vision. But this kind of thinking is more so, I think, multi-decade endeavor that we're thinking about. This is, I'm sure when we first figured out the Mark I in the computer, people have been thinking about MMORPG because it's exciting. Once you can calculate things, and also if you can actually connect one node to another node, you can instantaneously think about, what if we can actually connect everyone over here and create some kind of world where we can actually live in this world and communicate and do kind of all sort of collaborative exercises over there without needing to be in the one physical space. So the reason why we think that on-chain reality will actually be the bedrock of augmented reality or virtual reality is that, think about it this way. So putting things on-chain, putting things that can be verified and permissionless is quite similar to putting of your mind. What I mean by this is that on-chain reality is more like the guarantee of the future, because there's this immutability and a perpetuality being embedded in most bottom layer of this reality, because we can actually synchronize and also save the most important informations on blockchain that we actually believe will be immutable forever. I think everyone here understands this multiplayer world computer actually will last until there's a nuclear Armageddon around the whole world and something blows up. And I guess that's the end of all virtual worlds that we can actually think about. But unless otherwise that happens, if you start saving these logics behind platforms like layer ones like Ethereum, I think the most exciting thing that will happen is this guarantee of the future. I think going back to the notion of the games, the understanding of the games, is that when you play computer game right now, it's like living in a world where it resets every day. Because there's no guarantee that whatever that you're working on right now will actually stay here 5 years now on or 10 years now on. And I think that's why the notion of playing game or wasting your time playing games comes from. Because when you're residing in this world where there's no guarantee of the future, whatever that you work over there is meaningless or wasteful. That's why we have this tendency of going for ephemeral dopamine spikes when we are playing this world or simulations where there's no guarantee of the future. Just like in this world, I'm sure everyone over here gathering and listening to this talk is not coming here because this is pure fun. Like you're getting a dopamine spike, like I don't know, eating sugar, because that gives you a sugar high and everything. But I'm sure that's not what we're here for, because for some reason, because we know that in this world there is a guarantee of the future, whatever that we're conversing over here or exchanging ideas over here will be beneficial in the future. So that kind of fun or additive experience is possible in this world. But a lot of realities that are out there is not possible because the basis on which these worlds are hosted on, the perpetuality is never guaranteed. So that's why we're really excited about this on-chain reality, because these are base layers that can actually change the behaviors of participants that actually live in these simulations. So what we are thinking about it is more like virtual reality is like your eyes of this world. And augmented reality is more your senses, or your touches, and if you actually combine those two, and people are calling it like, oh, these are mixed realities or whatever people want to call it. But just like in this world, the most important thing is your mind or the brain that actually thinks that whatever you're interacting in this world will actually last. And also, you're not living in a rigged environment, that you are an active participant in this world, and whatever that you're working on is not governed by someone, I don't know, some lords out up there that can manipulate your rules out there. So that's why we believe that the on-chain reality has to be the bedrock of whatever universe that we're going to make on purely on virtual sense. But I think we tend not to use the verbiage of the metaverse, or people want to call it, because I don't think it gives the right understanding or confusion to people. But I think it's similar directions in a way that if you want to make any kind of virtual worlds out there, the basis on which these worlds have to be built on has to be on a permissionless a layer where there's a neutrality and a transparency of governing laws is guaranteed. And also because we know that this world computer that we're saving the data onto is perpetual. So there's a guarantee of the future. So it's worthwhile to do productive activities over there. So if anyone over here is interested or excited about building things related to on-chain worlds or fully on-chain games, I think the most important thing that we need to think about is not really about like how fun it is. It's similar to like when you're making a mobile game like a Flappy Birds from or Super Mario, because the purpose on which that you play these games are different. So people should be participating to be able to participate or conduct in productive activities. So at Topology, I think we've done a lot of experiments along with this philosophy behind. So we've done Isaac, which is three-body problem, purely on-chain, and the motive behind the game is that you're all living in this small planet over here, and there's three suns over here, and the objective is to build factories to change the projectile of the planet that you reside in, so that it doesn't collide in one of those three suns out there. And the other one that we did is the Moo. So it's more like we're thinking of it as like a digital, I think, physics or on-chain. I think the chemistry of the world is that once you combine certain things, you get a different output, and it's an optimization problem. And we wanted to see who actually plays this, because if you actually look at it's quite different from Moo and Isaac, is that we wanted to see why people would play this game or simulations, because it's like a work. And our analogy was more like, like if you're building bricks in this world, it's not fun, right? Nobody enjoys making a same brick or the most optimized and efficient brick. But I'm sure some people are getting the hook of it because they're seeing the application on which the product of what they're optimizing can actually build into the future world. So that's kind of like similar in line with what we're thinking about. And I think what we wanted to show is that, okay, we made Moo in a way that it's more like an optimization puzzle, but there must be some people who are really excited about this field of optimization. But let's make connections between this world and another world that we're going to make. And somehow, just like the brick analogy, someone must be really good at making bricks. But once those bricks are made, I'm sure the optimized brick that I make or you make is going to be different, and yours is going to be more efficient. And someone will probably seek out your brick more than mine because it's different qualities in different worlds. So that's kind of like a fun experiment that we're excited to touch on. I think the next one is Shoshin. It's a graphics, but I think Canva would have shown it, but it's a PDF. So it's fully on-chain fighting. I think it's TPS agnostic game. Is that so? You'd have two agents, and different from the fighting games that we've been playing. It's not a real-time fighting game. So has anyone here played Football Manager? So it's a simulation game. So you'd strategize every kind of move out there and submit your solution, and you and I would be fighting with our solutions. So we'd have different variations and different, I think, conditions out there, and we'd be able to see which agent actually wins. So let me just see whether I can connect my Canva. Oh no. Where is the Canva? Okay. Yeah. So this is Oshin. So it's a two agent fighting game, but different from other fighting games. It's not a real-time game. And this is the debugging mode, and you'll be able to strategize everything, and then you'll be fighting with different agent. And going back to the idea of the world computer analogy. So think of it as like our current world computer is not capable of simulating a very complex world that we're envisioning right now. We're similar to an age where we can only host arcade machine of these little snakes, and with the limitations that we have right now, I think the most fun experiments that we can actually do is TPS agnostic, where you submit one solution and fight with someone else to see whether your solutions or your conditions or strategies have beaten someone's. Would be the most interesting thing that can happen. And I think another experiment that we wanted to do is that, just like the brick analogy that we made before, is that if you actually put these worlds on top of Onchain, it'll be permissionlessly and so easy to connect these worlds somehow. And I think that's kind of the next steps that we wanted to go about. And if anyone wants to see if they want to be part of our playtest, please join our playtest waitlist. Would be loving to. We've actually finished our second round of playtesting, and we'll be releasing, I think, publicly playable, some sort of publicly playable version in about a couple weeks. So hopefully, if any one of you wants to join this experiment, please join the play test list. And if anyone wants to talk more about on-chain worlds or Starknet, please let me know. Yeah.